And the recording will be available at the ATJ Board YouTube page for subsequent viewing for anyone that were unable to attend the meeting. This is a public meeting of the Washington State Supreme Court Access to Justice Board. You're welcome. The mission of the Access to Justice is to recognize that access to civil justice system is a fundamental right. The Access to Justice Board works to achieve equal access for those facing economic and other significant barriers. So welcome everyone. And please, if this is your first time attending this meeting, kindly indicate in the chat your name and the organization you work with and your preferred pronouns so that we can all welcome you. We're going to start out today actually by welcoming a new leadership to TeamChild. So I'm going to call on Marcos Martinez to do the introduction. Marcos, are they here, Bonnie?
Yes.
Yo.
Thank you very much. Hi, thanks a lot for the invitation to be here with you today and to introduce myself. My name is Marcos Martinez, and I'm the new executive director at TeamChild. And it is my first time attending this meeting, so I appreciate the opportunity. And it is very much an honor and very humbling for me to follow Annie Lee as the executive director at TeamChild. And just briefly, I've been here in Seattle about 14 years now, and most recently as executive director at Casa Latina, which is a worker center serving primarily Latinx immigrant day laborers and domestic workers. And But during my time here in Seattle, I have had the pleasure of working in collaboration with some members of the great civil legal aid community here in our area, particularly with folks like Jorge and Malu and other colleagues at the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, and also some of our friends like Murph and I see Antonio from Columbia Legal Services. And I just really look forward to meeting more of you, meeting all of you, and continuing the work that Annie has laid the foundation for, and building on the success that she and the incredible team have created, especially during these challenging times. And I appreciate the warm welcome that I've received, and thank you all for the incredible work that you do. Also want to acknowledge my colleague and co-worker Sarah Zier, who's here, our acting director of legal services at TeamChild, who's one of the incredible folks that I have the pleasure of working with at TeamChild. And thank you all so very much, and it's great to be here.
Thank you, Marcos. Sarah, I'm sure Sarah has something to say. Go ahead, Sarah.
I put it in the chat since Marcos introduced himself well, but just to share with you all, and I know I haven't attended these meetings and I'm new to this particular configuration of the ATJ board, but we're so excited at TeamChild. I've been at TeamChild for over 10 years now, and I'm new to the statewide role, but we're so lucky to have Marcos join us. And it seemed like a hard thing to, and is, to replace Annie Lee, but Marcos seems like he belongs at TeamChild, and he's only been there for a few weeks. So we're just really excited to welcome him, and thank you for the invitation today, and excited to work with all of you and Marcos.
Thank you, Marcos. And we also welcome today, thank you, Sarah, thank you, Marcos. We also welcome today Lily Sue. I think Terry didn't give me notice about Lily. So I'm sorry, Lily, I should have introduced you too. But, I blame that on Terry, because everything about UW, Terry tells me about that. So Lily, will you please quickly introduce yourself also, if you can unmute?
Yes, thank you so much. So I'm so excited to be here today at this meeting. I just recently started at Seattle University School of Law in late October, and I'm just very honored to be working with Dean Clark and with Cindy Young and with Clay Wilson, who are also on this call. And I have had the pleasure to meet some of you through my legal aid experience in the past when I worked with clients experiencing homelessness. So I look forward to getting to know the rest of you better. And also, I believe Dean Clark will be sharing more about what's going on at Seattle U today. So I'm just so excited about that.
Yes, thank you. Oh, Seattle U, not you, dog. I got it wrong. All right, thank you. Now, we move to the minutes of the meeting of last month meeting. I wasn't part of the meeting. Terry was in charge of that meeting. Any motion? The minutes has been shared ahead of time. Motion to adopt the minutes.
I move that we adopt the minutes.
Second.
Thank you, SP. Sal, second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Adopted. Now we go to, oh, sorry. I should have, I make sure, I think it's unanimous, right? Bonnie, did you get all of that? Every thumbs up? All right, thank you. You got that? Okay.
Yes, we're good.
All right. Now we go to, Sal is very busy today, so we moved Sal up on the agenda. Sal is going to be speaking to us on the WSBA working with Supreme Court Board's task force called the TAXICAB updates. So Sal, take it away.
Thanks, Francis. And I apologize, everyone. I'm literally on a 10 to 10:15 break here, so I'm going to keep this very short. Just to remind you all, I am the ATJ Board's representative to a committee that is a WSBA committee, that WSBA is trying to come up with a policy on how it deals with Supreme Court appointed boards, which there are 6 of them. If you go to materials, page 14, you'll see the list of the 6 boards there that are Supreme Court created. We are one of them. Each board really has such a different makeup and the way it operates that it is a little difficult to come up with one policy. WSBA is concerned about some of the frictions or difficulties it's had with dealing with court-appointed boards in the past, and so thought that coming up with a policy may alleviate some down-the-road headaches. Francis asked me to be the ATJ Board's representative, which I am, and have been working on that. Initially, WSBA proposed a policy which I've shared with this board before, and which I told the board my views on that. It was not a good policy. It's WSBA's policy. They can do whatever they want, but certainly not something that I thought would be accurately reflect our role between us and the state Supreme Court. I've worked with Michael Cherry, who is actually the chair of the Practice of Law Board, and Steve Crosland, who's the chair of the LLT Board, so that we came up with our own proposed policy. That's what you see at the start of page 14 of your materials, a draft. The main point, there's a couple of sticking points because now WSBA has this and they're going to get back. One big sticking point is saying that state Supreme Court appointed boards are autonomous. I think that's going to be a big part with WSBA. That's how I see the ATJ Board, however. We are a Supreme Court created entity. We report to the Supreme Court, not to the WSBA BOG, although we do provide our reports to the BOG. Because they do administer us, and that's where the conflict arises between what's it mean to administer our board, and yet we are an independent board. WSBA may be taking the position, but very well, that we are part of WSBA, which I don't see as being part of WSBA. And so you'll see that this is a current draft. One of our goals, and I think WSBA won't have any problem with that, is the fact that we set our own policies. We are in control of our own communications. I don't think that's no longer an issue, although I think it's been an issue in the past. But as far as how much they do control us, and us and on all the boards will be the big sticking point, and whether in fact we are part of WSBA or not, which again, I don't think we are. The state Supreme Court has mandated that they help provide our support. And that's what they do, and we and make sure that we comply with the Supreme Court mandate. But Other than that, I don't see as being part of WSBA. So I know this is very brief. I do want to keep on reporting to you all on this because it's very active between us and WSBA. And I probably have time for me for literally one quick comment or question, if there are any.
Comment or question for Sal on TaxiCAB? Yes, SP.
So, thank you. Just quickly, what is it that any of us on the board or any of us that's present here what kind of support can we provide as you're going through this process?
I think the support will come, Esperanza, when at least there's some sort of draft policy that between, if you will, the board representatives on this committee and WSBA can kind of come up with and see where the differences are. Then I'll come back to this board and ask for a specific vote, saying, look, this is the ATJ board's position. We're not quite there yet. It may be a couple of iterations down the road, but that's when this board will have to make some decisions.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Francis, for putting me on early. I really appreciate that. And I apologize for not attending, but it is a very hectic day today. So I'll see you all at the next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Now the favorite part of my job is always welcoming Dean to ATJ board meeting. So we welcome Dean Annette Clark to this meeting today. And we are so grateful that you honored us. You've been here in the past, and we always appreciate the work that Seattle U is doing and has done, or we continue to do for the access to justice community. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dean.
Thank you, Francis. And thanks to the Access to Justice Board for inviting me here to speak again this year. I didn't realize it until Cindy Young, my wonderful assistant dean in the Access to Justice Institute, reminded me, but I haven't spoken to you since 2019. So it's been a while. Just an absolute joy to be back. I want you to know that our law school has continued our commitment to educating powerful advocates for justice. We work really hard to participate in the larger ATJ community. Seattle U Law is a member of the Alliance for Equal Justice. We became a signatory to Washington's Race, Equity, and Justice Initiative in 2020. We continue to be the most diverse law school in Washington State, really in the Pacific Northwest, with a longstanding commitment to social justice. So I don't have a lot of time, and I have so many things to tell you about, which is the good news. There's a lot going on at Seattle U Law. So I'm going to try to highlight some of our newer initiatives, and then towards the end, I'll remind you of our continuing work. So I want to start with our Kuramatsu Center for Law and Equality, so ably, so brilliantly led by Professor Bob Chang. He has been so hard at work on the Race in Washington's Criminal Justice System report, which is a sort of 2.0 version of a report that he helped with 10 years ago. And it's an incredibly important report. It's come out now. It's being published in all 3 of our law schools' law reviews. It comes also with a youth justice report. They're working right now on finalizing recommendations. And of course, that's been a huge community effort. I know there are people here today in this meeting who have been involved in that, but it's been done really under Bob Chang's leadership. And so I want to highlight his amazing work and really the impact that that report is going to have on criminal justice in our state. I'm also really proud to report on a collaborative pipeline project. This is a combined effort of University of Washington, Gonzaga, Seattle University, and Heritage University. Together, we submitted a proposal to the Law School Admissions Council, and we did receive a grant to develop a pipeline project in Central Washington, with the idea being that's a relative desert for legal education. We discovered that in the past 5 years, nobody who graduated from Heritage University has been a student at one of our law schools. And it was really through the efforts of NJP, Columbia Legal Services, TeamChild, NERP, coming to us saying, let's do something about that. That led to this grant proposal. So we will be at Heritage University this summer for 3 weeks and then for a week in the fall, working with rising sophomores and juniors at Heritage, as well as recent graduates, introducing them to the possibility of a life in the law, introducing them to judges and lawyers who come from their community who will mentor them. And I'm particularly proud of this effort because it is a collaborative project across all 3 law schools. And when we received the grant, the Law School Admissions Council told us it was their favorite of all of the applications. So we are hard at work on delivering on that program this summer. We've also entered into another collaborative project. So I suppose that's maybe the theme of my remarks today, that we're calling the Housing Justice Collective. And that's a partnership between Seattle University School of Law and the Office of Civil Legal Aid. Jim Bamberger came to us and said, let's work together to help provide a pipeline of new, passionate, diverse, competent lawyers to meet the right to counsel mandate in this state for those who are experiencing housing eviction, housing insecurity. So we have launched a new housing justice clinic in our law school. We are reviewing our curriculum to enhance it, to make sure that our students and graduates are capable practitioners in doing eviction defense. Through our Access to Justice Institute, we held a 1-day housing clinic along with the King County Bar Association Housing Justice Project. And we now have Public Interest Law Foundation summer grants dedicated to this work. We have 2 being funded by the Office of Civil Legal Aid and 1 being funded by NJP. So you can look for graduates of Seattle U Law to be helping to meet that right to counsel mandate in our state. We've also continued in our work to end systemic racism. One of the developments, we had a lot of student advocacy around our conditional scholarships. Conditional scholarships are scholarships where the students get them on entry to law school, but they have to maintain a certain class rank in order to keep them. And one of the things the students pointed out, and I'm really embarrassed to disclose this, but we need to, is that we had a Dean's Diversity Scholarship that would go to our diverse students that required that they stay in the top 75% of the class in order to maintain their diversity scholarship. I'm sure you can understand how lacking in principle that is. And so one of the things we've done this spring is to remove that condition from our Dean's Diversity Scholarship, not only for entering students, but also our current students, so that students who receive that scholarship do not have to have a particular class rank in order to maintain it. And I do want to emphasize that really came about because of student advocacy. We have a new Dean of Students, our longtime Dean of Students, Donna Deming, retired. But we're thrilled to have Kristen DiBiase. She is a Bipac member, wonderful Dean of Students who's joined us. I hope I have the chance to introduce her to many of you. And she's doing some of our anti-racism work in the law school, or helping us with it. Again, talking about new efforts, we had a police and prison abolition class that was taught by Nikita Oliver. And being taught again this spring, as you can imagine, waitlisted, more students who wanted to take it than we could accommodate. Our acting clinical director, Carwina Wang, is teaching an anti-racism and beyond course this spring. That's a new course for us. We're also working on launching a new health policy clinic that will come next fall, funded by PHPDA. Our annual Diversity Week is coming up. That's organized by our SBA and our Staff and Student Life and our Access to Justice Institute. And it's just an incredible diversity of programs across what is a little more than a week, where we celebrate the richness of our community. We've had some really strong emphasis on hiring and retention of BIPOC faculty and staff in our law school. That is a commitment that's been made by our university, by our law school, and certainly our students have been demanding it. We were able to hire 3 new BIPOC faculty who joined us this year, including the president of Seattle University, Eduardo Peñalver, and his wife, Sheetal Kalantri, both of whom are members of our law school faculty. We've done some hiring this year. We have 1 new BIPOC faculty member who's accepted our offer. She's actually not going to join us until 2023 because she's doing a Ninth Circuit clerkship for the next year. And we have an offer out to another potential BIPOC faculty member. He's visiting us this next Monday. So I'm really hoping that he will accept our offer. One of the things we did in response to the murder of George Floyd and the racial reckoning that continues was to create a standing committee on diversity, equity, and inclusion within the law school. It started as an ad hoc committee last year. This year, we actually amended our faculty code to make it a permanent standing committee of the law school. It is made up of faculty, staff, and students within our law school. They've done listening circles. We're working on a proposal right now to receive a grant from the university. So that's been, I think, a really good development within our law school, not with the idea that the committee needs to do all of the DEI work, but that they can help lead those efforts. We were able to hire Lily Sue, who you've been introduced to as our associate director in the Access to Justice Institute. And we made it a specific part of the job description when we went out to hire for that position, that the individual who took that on would become a leader on DEI efforts in our law school. And I'm just so happy to say that Lily has jumped right in and is making a real difference as we try to move our law school forward to be an anti-racist community. We have adopted an anti-racism learning outcome in the law school. Right now, on Tuesday, we're about to consider a proposal where we would add a 1-credit course into the first year that would be focused on racial inequity and solutions, racial equity and justice. So we'll see what happens when the faculty takes that up, but I think there's a pretty good chance it'll be approved. I don't think we would have that course by next fall, but probably a year from fall. We had just a terrific advanced race equity presentation this past Tuesday by our own graduate, Judge David Keenan, as well as Commissioner Jonathan Lack on racism, truth, and reconciliation in Washington courts. I was so pleased to see how well attended that presentation was. We did it both in person and virtual. And we had over 100 members of our community who attended that terrific presentation. We launched again, I think this is the 5th or 6th year of our racial justice book groups within the law school, where we invite faculty, staff, and students to join us in reading. And we give them a selection of books, although of course the book groups can go outside our recommended selection. And we read together as a community and meet in small groups and discuss books that are really about educating us on issues of racial injustice. We founded and continue to host and co-sponsor the Promoting Diversity in Law School Leadership Workshop. And that helps members of underrepresented groups in the legal academy become law deans. That's been a wonderful enterprise over the last 10 years. Watching the people who come through that workshop eventually become law deans across the country. We have over 15 individuals who have gone through our workshop who are sitting law deans or have been law deans. We're now a member of the Gregoire Fellows Program, which is a diversity program devoted to trying to diversify the corporate legal enterprise. And I'm so proud to say that our Black Law Student Association and our Seattle University Law Review now have an annual Epoch Spotlight Symposium. Happens each February during Black History Month. It's designed to amplify Black voices in the legal academy and the legal profession. Our next one is upcoming on February 25th. And we're going to hear from Professor Justin Hansford, who directs the Thurgood Marshall Civil Rights Center at Howard University School of Law. Justice Mary Yu is one of our speakers, and our own Seattle University Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, Natasha Martin, will be speaking. And of course, she's also a tenured member of our faculty. We have a new student organization, which is our non-binary, gender, non-conforming, and allies student association. We finally have a gender inclusive restroom down on the court level. We had some single stall gender inclusive restrooms in our law school building, but our students advocated for something on the court level, which is where our large classrooms are and where our students spend most of their time. So we took the men's restroom and finally got the university to approve these efforts and got the construction done. So just this January, as we came back in person, we were able to open our gender inclusive 4-stall restroom on our court level. Of course, we regularly attend the Access to Justice Conference. We're sponsors of the Goldmark Luncheon, which is coming up later today. We just received a wonderful $5 million gift from the Moccasin Lake Foundation, which is going to allow us to build out our family law curriculum, and particularly with an emphasis on domestic violence legal services. And one of the things we're able to do with this funding is to help provide legal services through our students being supervised by attorneys, with a particular emphasis on rural counties, starting with Okanagan County. I guess what I really want to say is this is an unbelievably vibrant place when it comes to issues of access to justice, racial equity. If you walked into our law library right now, you would see 2 exhibits. One of them arose out of our International Human Rights Clinic, where our students gathered the testimonies of former and current detainees of the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma. And those immigrants' compelling words are accompanied by their portraits rendered by a Latina artist. It's a very moving exhibit. And we also have an exhibit on display of a collection of books from our library collection that was curated by one of our BALSA members for Black History Month. So those are just some of the new and ongoing or current projects. I want to remind everybody that, of course, we continue to have our Academic Resource Center Access Admission Program, where we bring in 10% of our entering class. Students who have incredible potential, persistence, ability to diversify the legal profession. We have our street law program, our pro bono pledge program, our Access to Justice Institute first-year fellows, Social Justice Mondays, Evening with Equal Justice. I want to highlight our Public Interest Law Foundation auction. That's coming up on March 5th. It's going to be in person. We really hope you will purchase a ticket and attend. We use the funding that flows from that auction to be able to send at least 20 of our amazing law students out into the community during the summer to do public interest work. The title of this year's 29th annual auction is The Power of Purpose. If you're not able to attend, there will be a silent auction that's done virtually. So lots of different ways for you to participate. Of course, we continue our Moderate Means program. I know Clay is here on the call today. Our incubator program that Cindy Young does such a marvelous job with. We continue our partnership with Choose 180. We have our Scholars for Justice. Those are full ride tuition scholarships for students who we anticipate will be leaders for justice in our community. So much more, but I want to make sure that I give time to answer questions. Let me just, in closing, thank Cindy Young, our Assistant Dean of the Access to Justice Institute, and Lily Sue, our Associate Director, for taking a leadership role in so many of these initiatives. As Dean, I get to report them out, but it really does take a village. This is a community effort, and of course, not just inside the law school. You folks are incredibly important, and it's a community effort. I do want to note that next year is our 50th anniversary of the law school. Our theme is celebrating 50 years of access, opportunity, and community. And we're really proud of the social justice legacy that we're building, and proud to be a member of a legal community that is dedicated to bringing about racial equity and equal justice. And finally, truly finally, I am stepping down, I think all of you know, at the end of this year after 10 years as Dean of this law school, which is my alma mater. We are at the closing of a dean search. So I'll just tell you that we saw some amazing finalists, and the decision is now with our provost and president. So I expect within the next month, we will be able to publicly announce my successor. I can definitely tell you that I intend to pass along our legacy of social justice, and that as I talked with each of the finalists, our committee did a really good job of curating and bringing in a group who are excited about our mission and eager to meet and work with you. So I very much look forward to the day when I will be able to introduce our next dean to you. Let me stop there. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Dean Clark. We will surely miss you. Some of us have been biting our fingers and wondering what is going to happen next after your departure, but there is hope. Any question or comment for Dean Clark? Well, could you join me to give a digital clap for Dean Clark? Thank you so much, Dean Clark. We will surely miss. If this had been in person, we'd all be standing up and clapping, because you left the Access to Justice community a legacy for us to build on. Thank you so much for all that you do. Everywhere you turn to in our state, you will definitely find a Seattle U law grad that is doing a social justice work. That I know as a reality. Thank you so much. Miria has a comment. Go ahead, Miria.
I definitely want to echo, thank you for all the hard work. What a legacy. And we're going to benefit from all of that hard work. It is my alma mater, and my comment is just, hey, can we get everything you just said? I heard a lot of resources, a lot of things, and would love to get it in writing, at least some of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Clark. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We're grateful. All right. Now we're going to switch to legislative updates. As usual, this is February. And if it's February, that means Antonio Ginata is in the house. So we're going to ask Antonio to provide us an update, legislative updates. Thank you.
Thanks, Francis. I'm in this quiet moment of Zen right now, and I'm just enjoying it and learning a lot. I was running around a little crazy last night with, the things that happened during legislative session, but let's get into it. My job here in the next 10, 15 minutes is just to quickly go through where we're at in the legislative session and some of the bills that CLS has prioritized and what we're looking at. But first, setting the stage, day 33 of 60. So officially we're on the second half, but really for me, the halfway mark is when bills have to switch over to their other house. And that's what's happening right now. Until the 15th, the legislators are on the floor of the Senate and of the House trying to push bills out of the chamber of origin and across to the opposite chamber. And so these are busy days, long nights. They were there until after midnight. The House was, at least last night, on ghost guns. I don't know if they'll work on Sunday. They'll work on Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday. They've got to get bills out by 5 p.m. on the 15th. So at least that's the push right now. If they don't get them out, they're dead. Okay. On page 11 of your materials, I have a list of bills that CLS has either prioritized or is just supporting. But some context is helpful there. I think I get the question about, how does CLS pick what bills to prioritize? And it can be a bit of a may look a disorganized list, but it actually comes from different sources. So CLS, obviously through our, furtherance of our client representation of a low-income client or an eligible community group, we can undertake policy that way. And typically those policy priorities focus around our strategic priorities of ending mass incarceration and promoting immigrant equity. So that's one bucket. The other is, in conversations with our partners in the Alliance for Equal Justice, issues may come up that may require a policy fix, but due to resources or federal restrictions, those partners can't take on that work. So that goes into the pile of things that we look at to take on as well. And also, the third bucket is legislators who know that CLS has worked on a certain issue or has expertise on a certain issue will ask us to engage on a bill, and that also sort of comes into the what we consider what we can take on. Our expertise and a legislator request. The fourth bucket that I'll mention that isn't on this page, on page 11, is the things we've got to stop, which are the bills that harm people who are low income. And they're even in friendly legislatures, there are always bills like that. There have been several already this year. Maybe that's for another conversation. But for now, let me just run through some of these bills on page 11. I'm going to do, as you'll see the list, I mean, I don't know, it's a dozen, a little more. I'm not going to do the bills justice in terms of describing them, but at least a quick introduction as to what's going on. In terms of priority bills, in terms of immigrant equity, there were two bills that were really were part of a coalition that's working on two big bills. One didn't make it, which was Senator Saldaña's bill on providing unemployment benefits to folks who aren't eligible for unemployment due to their immigration status. That's a bill that we'll continue to work on in the years to come. It's a big lift, and there's funding issues. How is a fund like that set up? How do you create a fair system? That needs to get worked out in the interim. So more work to be done there. But there is a big budget proviso that's still in the works on the healthcare side of things. So providing for an equitable healthcare system, healthcare access for immigrants who can't access Medicaid or the exchange due to their immigration status. So it's a $100 million ask to start up a program to provide a Medicaid-like system for immigrants who don't qualify for Medicaid. And then for the folks who are above the Medicaid limit from like 139% of the federal poverty level to 250%, create an access to the exchange. So that's a big ask. Budgets are going to start getting nailed down, at least introduced, we expect around the 20th, maybe 18th to the 20th of February. So a lot of push there. Going down the list, we've been working on issues of juvenile records for many years, and there was a bill this year by Representative Frame 2034 that was originally intended to create a new system beyond sealing that would actually lead to juvenile record destruction after several years. If your record was sealed and you met several criteria, you would get to a point where you could actually destroy the record itself. That didn't move, but what we've got now is a bill that does something that I think is still very helpful, and it just adds a certain level of accountability for sealed juvenile records. So what the bill does is if a state agency releases sealed records, and unfortunately at CLS we're dealing with a number of state agencies that are just not treating sealed records like sealed records, then there's an accountability provision. There is which didn't exist before. So this creates a penalty for disseminating sealed records by a government agency or a corporation, something like that. That bill actually made it through the House, I think with 70 votes, if I remember correctly, a good bipartisan bill. A lot of these actually had good, strong support. House Bill 1412, the legal financial obligations bill that we worked on, also got 70 votes, also got out of the House yesterday. One of the things I really like about House Bill 1412 is that it really works to decouple funding critical government services on the backs of people who are paying LFOs. So decoupling the sort of court funding from people who owe LFOs. So for example, there was a victim penalty assessment that would be tacked on as a legal financial obligation. Now what this bill does is it gets rid of that tack on, but it funds a victim assessment, victim protection program that does the same thing. It just decouples the two. So really excited to see that and see it pass with 70 votes of support. On the theme of Seattle U, Professor Lisa Brodoff raised an issue with me during the interim about the fact that there are these strict deadlines for applying for requesting an administrative hearing in the world of medical assistance or public assistance in general, these 90-day deadlines. And it doesn't matter if you have a medical emergency, if you're in a coma, if you've been deployed, if you're a victim of domestic violence, if you're homeless, there's no exception. At 90 days, the opportunity to request a fair hearing goes away. Professor Brodoff tried to fix this with one of our clinics, at which one of our staff attorneys used to be at, Jacira Velasco. But it wasn't an issue that could be dealt with rulemaking. It needed an RCW fix. I checked in with the Northwest Justice Project, and they raised similar concerns that there was no good cause exception. So Senator Wynn sponsored 5729, which creates a good cause exception to the 90-day hearing deadline for public assistance benefits. And that bill made it out of the Senate unanimously. So we're excited about that moving forward as well. And then the outlying bill right now that I need to get off the House floor by Tuesday is House Bill 1300, which deals with issues around for tenants around unfair damage claims by landlords, like unsubstantiated, exaggerated damage claims that follow a tenant from tenancy to tenancy and can potentially lead to housing instability. The question is, what really is wear and tear? What this bill does is actually more clearly define it and more clearly establish what a landlord needs to document before keeping your security deposit or charging you for damage that is actually normal wear and tear and shouldn't be follow you around. The landlords hate that bill. They've hated it for the last 3 years. They continue to hate it. We've narrowed it. It's still not narrow enough. And there are some other, controversial housing bills out there. A lot of the legislative session is about, do you have the time to take on this this floor time to debate controversial issues? So it may be that this bill once again takes second fiddle to some of the other bills out there, but we'll see. We're keeping pushing. We're pushing. We put out an action alert today to get legislators to understand that this is an important bill and push it forward. So in terms of the CLS priority bills, those are the ones that I wanted to raise with you. But there are a lot of other really interesting bills out there that we are supporting, and I just wanted to run through a couple of those as well. And I've been waiting to see if Jim was going to join us, but the community reinvestment account bill, so putting $125 million a year into programs that try to address the harms of the drug war by putting it into economic development, so starting a business, into community and violence reduction, re-entry support, post-conviction representation. This is a really interesting bill by Representative Morgan, and it's a lot of funding that would go into those programs. So I know that we need to keep a close eye on and support 1827. The bill yesterday that they got through was really excited about is the bill that gives a stipend to low-income community members or community members who are underrepresented on state boards, so they can actually participate in those state boards. The bill got slightly weakened. This is 5793 because it was a mandate at the beginning, but now state agencies may provide that stipend. But by opening the door, I really do think the push will be there to actually help better to push for better, more diverse and appropriate representation, and from people who are directly impacted on these state boards that make these decisions that impact these folks. Now you actually have an ability, to take time away, to cover your childcare, while you participate. So it's a really good bill. The AG's behind that one, and that one got out of the Senate with 18 no votes, if I remember correctly. So it was bipartisan, but not as much as others. How about that? House Bill 1616, which addresses charity care. It sets a higher level for charity care for hospitals, is moved out of the out of the House with good support, but it seems like the Hospital Association is trying to continue to negotiate it and negotiate down the heightened charity care levels. So we're still working through that one. And then there were bills that died that I thought were really interesting to see. So universal basic income bill by Representative Berry died, but there may be a proviso that we're looking for in the budget that would put $10 million into multiple projects to create more local universal basic income pilots. So we may still see that. And then newly minted Senator Trudeau's Future Fund Trust program is really cool. Like the idea is if you were born, it's a baby bond program. So if born through, if your birth was funded through Medicaid, I think is the way it was listed, you would get this $3,200 amount of money put away that you could, when you became an adult, put into starting a business or paying for education. Really neat baby bond program, but didn't get funded. So not moving this year, but these are ideas that take time. So anyways, I'm at about 15 minutes here, and I don't, there's lots of other bills to talk through.
Thank you.
I just, please do reach out if you have questions about any bills. I'm here to talk through any questions you have. So you can call me, email me, whatever. Thanks,
Thank you,
Francis.
Antonio. Thank you. Any question for Antonio before we let him go to Olympia to continue to do the hard work for us? Thank you, Antonio. We'll see you. I think we have one more next month, right? Before
yeah, I think we might. Yep.
So we'll see you again next month. We appreciate you, Antonio. Thank you.
Thanks, Francis.
All right. Thank you. Next, at the ATJ, ABA, ATJ commissions and board, we had an opportunity to listen to Ted Howard talk about this issue. And I said, I really, really need Ted. So Diana was able to reach out, and we have the honor to have Ted to talk to us today on law firms engaging in anti-racism work. So please join me to welcome Ted Howard. Ted Howard, welcome.
Thank you very much, Francis. And thank you for having me. And I appreciate Diana's invitation. I'm going to talk just briefly about the Law Firm Anti-Racism Alliance. The organization basically came out of some conversations that about 6 or 8 full-time pro bono professionals in law firms had in the immediate aftermath of George Floyd's murder. And we talked about the fact that almost all of the pro bono work that our various law firms do could be characterized as anti-racist work, racial justice work, in the sense that the overwhelming majority of the clients for whom we do pro bono work are communities of color. But that law firms really had never, as a group, focused a lot of time and attention on conscious efforts to address systemic racism in the legal system. And so we came up with this concept for an alliance. And lo and behold, we have 300 law firms that have signed on to participate as alliance members across the country. We have at least one firm in all 50 states. Believe K&L Gates and Perkins Coie are proud participants in the alliance from the state of Washington. But in any event, the law firms range in size from 2-person boutiques to 1,500 lawyer monoliths, and we have some international participation as well. And the concept basically is that this should be in addition to, not instead of, the pro bono work that we have traditionally done. We want to marshal the forces and resources of private law firms to collaborate with experts, subject matter experts, and legal services organizations, and access to justice commissions to just do a better job in terms of focusing on root causes in the legal system that result in disparate or disproportionate adverse impacts on people of color and communities of color. To do historical analyses of how laws got to be formed in the way that they were, and whether or not they were motivated by racist intentions at the time that they came into being, and if so, what the steps are that would allow for those causes or those reasons to be undone, so that the system functions more fairly. We have formed 18 working groups: access to justice, banking and consumer issues, child welfare, criminal legal system, education, employment, environmental justice, gun violence prevention and intervention, healthcare, homelessness, housing and home ownership, immigration, philanthropy, policing, public benefits, reproductive justice, tax, and voting rights. Some of those working groups have 20 members. Some of them have in excess of 200 members. The working groups consult with subject matter experts and legal services providers to help us determine how to help them addressing the issues that they feel are important and need to be addressed. Through impact litigation, through public policy advocacy, and through scholarly inquiry. We have a projects committee that works with the working groups to identify things that need to be done, but we also welcome solicitations from organizations and groups and individuals that feel like they've identified a problem that could use our help. And we also have among the in excess of 165,000 people who actually work in these alliance law firms. We also have a strong contingent of DEI professionals within the firms who are helping alliance firms focus internally at their own issues with regard to diversity, at the same time as the alliance looks outward into the legal community to try to identify places where we can help address systemic racism. We have a library that is in the process of being created, which will be a repository for written work product as we work on these projects and we identify these issues that need to be addressed. That will be publicly available to any and all persons who are interested in work that's been done on these issues. And ultimately, the objective for us is to just be a value added, an additional service to the pro bono work that we already do, to the resources that we already commit to the legal services organizations in our various communities, and the support we provide in those other ways. It's not in place of, it's in addition. The outward facing portal on our website, which is www.lawfirmantiracismalliance.org, where you can find information about what firms have signed on, about the convenings that we've done or plan to do, about our working groups and our leadership structure. In addition to a 27-person board of directors, we also have an advisory committee made up of general counsels from large corporations and law professors and others to help us focus on our mission and make sure that we're staying on task. But in any event, the outfacing portal of our website includes a submit new project link where any legal services organization or individual or state access to justice commission, et cetera, can craft a project in regard to which they would like help. And our projects committee will review those, and then they will be posted on our bulletin board where that all of our alliance firms have access to, and they can be claimed as pro bono projects off the bulletin board in order to do the work. We have no illusions about what we're taking on here. We're a high profile entity that is going to need to be responsive and that's accountable in order to not have this just be a moment, but rather a movement, as the saying goes. The intent is that 30 years from now, the law firm Anti-Racism Alliance will still be alive and well and functioning with the intent that we adopted in forming this organization. So thanks for the opportunity to introduce ourselves to you. Please, if there's anything that we can help with, go on the website or identify anyone who's participating on the board or in the working groups that you might know or that you can approach. And if we can help, it's our intention to do so. So thanks.
All right. Thank you, Ted. There is a question. Judge Bradley? Judge, yeah.
Thank you, Francis, and thank you, Ted, for presenting this information. It sounds really exciting. I feel compelled, in honor of our good friend, Judge Don Horowitz, to ask if there's a committee looking at administrative law and administrative justice.
It's not specifically, but I think that particularly through our Access to Justice working group, which is sort of different from the other working groups in the sense that it's not focused on a particular substantive area, but rather a problem. You know, if there are aspects of the way in which administrative law works that, you know, deserve attention and study and action, we're certainly inclined to be available to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other question or comments? Question for Ted or comments on the presentation? SP, go ahead.
Just a quick one. Thank you very much for that presentation and really timely and very needed work that you're doing. I'm wondering, what is the extent of the work that the Alliance might be doing or connected with volunteer lawyer programs across the strait? Because it's, you know, they're not law firms, but they kind of work like law firms. So if you could kind of speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by it.
Ted is coming from the national
Yeah.
organization. Ted is based in California, so it's not really focused on our states.
Okay, so
I
there.
think,
I'm actually in Washington, D.C. The other
yeah,
one.
Washington, D.C. Okay, but I actually think that our volunteer lawyers program can actually take advantage of their programs and plans. I think Michael is not here today.
I saw his name earlier. I don't know if he's still on.
No, Terry said no. So we would connect Ted with Michael Terrazaki, our pro bono coordinator to manager to see if there are any areas of work they can partner together.
And I believe there are some others around in other parts of the country as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question or comment for Ted? All right, thank you, Ted. We appreciate
Thanks so much for
it.
having me, you all. Congratulations on all the amazing work it sounds like you're doing out there.
Thank you. And Diana will get in touch to make sure that we connect the dots.
Please
All
do.
right.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda today is the ATJ Technology Principles Report to the Court. Terry, take it away.
Thank you, Francis. I'm first going to take 15 seconds and join the chorus of people thanking Dean Annette Clark for all of her work for all of these years. And although I was not in the hallways, I was always a fan. All right. So this is a biennial report in that both the AOC, the Administrative Office of the Courts, and the Access to Justice Board submit to the Supreme Court, showing the initiatives that the court is doing and how they line up with our 6 access to justice tech principles. The 6 principles broadly are requirement broadly of access to justice, and that the use of technology must promote, not reduce equal access, technology and just results, openness and privacy, assuring a neutral forum, maximizing public awareness and use, and best practices. As folks on the board have heard me say, let's just say this is a continuing process. And the introduction of technology has created, I want to say unintended consequences, but has created consequences about digital divide, digital poverty, historically marginalized populations not having access to the technology that the courts are implementing. And I'll just leave it at that. That's my pitch there. But regardless, we are reporting to the court, as promised, our biennial report. We co-wrote it with the Administrative Office of the Courts. And so it is on your materials starting on page 4. And I need a motion to approve it, to send it to the Supreme Court.
So
Okay,
moved.
motion, SP move. Second,
I'll second.
Michelle second. Any discussion? All in favor, please use the digital to make things easy for Bonnie. Please use the digital thumbs up or hands raised for this purpose. Okay, Michael, Francis, Michelle, Judge Kovic, SP, yes, right?
Yes.
Okay, Miriam. Okay, okay, we can put our hands down now. Oh, sorry, SP, were you saying something?
I'm going to text Miria.
Okay.
Just to make sure.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Please use the digital thumbs up or hands raised for us. Any opposed? None opposed. I will mark Miria as absent for this vote, since we didn't have any indication either way. All right. Thank you. This is approved and should be ready to go to the Supreme Court. Thank you. Oh, no, we're going to go to the, we don't need to go to the Board of Governors, do we, Terry? All right, he's going to the Supreme Court. All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is the Interpreters Commission Liaison Report, which I'm presenting. I took over from Judge Bradley as the liaison to the Interpreters Commission. And I think about 2 or 3, no, almost 4 years ago now, 3 years ago, sorry. And since that time, a lot has happened. The last 2 years has been very, very challenging, but it has also been filled with great opportunities. The commission had 2 members on the Gender and Justice Commission, which provided input on interpreter-related concerns. And out of that, there come the opportunity to be able to include in the report an expansion of the availability of translated forms and documents for LEP parties, and also to expand the recruitment and a basic training of interpreters for court interpreting work through some of the educational partnership that the Interpreters Commission has been working on. And then another recommendation on the Gender and Justice Commission report, which was presented there a couple of months ago, is with creating a new specialist certificate legal sign language exam for credentialing sign language interpreters for court work. And that credential exam has also surely been something that the commission has been working on, but now through that report, we are able to at least get collaboration with Gender and Justice Commission and buy-in from other Supreme Court commission. And then the Board of Judicial Administration Language Access Resolution, the commission submitted an input into the BJA revision of the Language Access Resolution to include deaf and hard of hearing person for action in March of 2022. This is ongoing work, and the current resolution can be found. I think there's a PDF file that I would provide in the chat. I think it's in the materials for this meeting. The commission also look at review of GR 11.1 and GR 11.3. The suggested amendment to GR 11.1 will expand the role of the commission beyond policy-making matters restricted to spoken and sign languages interpreters to include also credentialing and all the other works that the commission is mandated to do. We are hoping that the ATJ board, this is the call to action for the board. We are hoping that the ATJ board comments are welcome. The ATJ community's comments are welcome on GR 11.1 and GR 11.3. I believe DISCO had a conversation about this issue, and we are hoping that comments will be forthcoming from DISCO on this GR 11.1 and 11.3. And then the GR 11.1 and 3 also provide one very unique opportunity for the commission, the authority to promulgate best practices and guidelines for translation of legal documents. That has been a challenge because if you provide documents to interpret to 3 different interpreters, chances are that you will get 3 different interpretation of that documents. This would help, document and website that contain vital information to the public to mirror, to have a standard that can be available across the state. One particular recommendation that I'm personally proud of is one that I took out of our community advisory panel. The community advisory panel in their first meeting threw a challenge that our commissions and board often don't represent the people that the policy is meant to be impacted. So one of my contributions as liaison and as Interpreters Commission member is to argue for this. So now one of these resolution, revision would expand the membership of the commission to include certified deaf interpreter, CDI, and deaf community representative, as well as add a co-chair and 2 other representative positions to the commission. Since the Interpreters Commission has been in existence, there have been community representation, but specifically we are calling out a particular position for certified deaf interpreters as well as deaf community representative to be on the commission as a representative, not as a community member. Because sometimes when you denote it as community members, people from all walks of life can apply and be in that position. But this is specifically for certified deaf interpreter and community and deaf community representative to be on the commission. Announcement and update: the Supreme Court is soliciting nominees from the Superior Court Judges Association for a person to replace Judge Raul, who was former Interpreters Commission chair. So if, nomination is being requested. And I believe Judge Kenan is aware of that. Is the ATJ Board SCJA liaison. The commission has created 2 statutory revisions work group to address changes to RCW 2.42 as well as 2.43, foreign language interpreters in court and sign language interpreters in court. These both statutes are long overdue for terminology revisions and corrections, especially given the digital environment that we work in these days. Now, work is ongoing. If anyone is interested in participating in providing input into this, please contact me and I would connect you with the committees that are working on this. So that is my liaison report from Interpreters Commission. Any questions, comments that I can take back? Terry, go ahead.
Well, in keeping with what I just said about technology and challenges, the use of technology in the courtroom and interpreters apparently continues to be a huge challenge for the judicial officers. And what, in my humble opinion, I believe there needs to be more training. But this comes up a lot in the Court Recovery Task Force, is that the use of remote hearings and the inability for litigants to have confidential, it's not just putting them in a breakout room, it's how do you interpret for them when they're in full court. So continues to be an issue.
Thank you. I'm sure Judge Marcin Anderson is there. She's the DMCJA liaison on the ATJ Commission, and this has been an issue that has really engaged DMCJA. Judge Anderson? We can't hear you. I think your system is on the mute. Bonnie, is it from your end?
Let me check. I don't think so.
God, I love technology.
I'm sorry, Judge Anderson. Okay. Could you just put it in chat and then we will read it out? All right, thank you. That's my report. Any other comments? All right. Okay, we will move on to the next issue on the agenda. Our plan is to have liaison report every month that are much more detail oriented and not just a scattershot. So we have a calendar of reports that will be coming to the ATJ board between now and the end of the year. Everyone, every liaison is required to make a report to the ATJ community on what is going on in other commissions and board where they are serving as liaison. So we now move on to the Equal Justice Coalition updates. Will is here. Welcome back, Will. We missed you last month.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. I am representing the scope of LFW campaign EJC updates today because understandably, my colleagues are quite busy getting ready for the gold mark, which starts in 44 minutes. So I hope that you will all be there. Natalia asked me to drop the link into the chat just in case you don't have it. But you can join the gold mark at noon or before right on that link. So we'll hope to see you there. I think everyone knows we're honoring Annie Lee this year at the Goldmark Award, and Dr. Ben Danielson is the keynote speaker. So should be a pretty great event. You know, it's going to be virtual again this year, hopefully next year in person, but I think last year's virtual event was pretty great, and I think this year will be no different. There's also an LFW board meeting going on right now, which is why Caitlin couldn't be here. I wanted to make sure that everyone knew about couple changes to the LFW board. Candelaria Murillo, who's been on the board, is now the president this year. And there are 2 new board members, Julie Ferris from Keller Rohrbach and Judge Kristen Ferreira from the Chelan County Superior Court are now officially part of the LFW board, which is exciting. Otherwise, you know, obviously, big focus has been on Goldmark for several months now, but we'll have hopefully some good news to report there after today. But I wanted to also make sure that folks knew that the campaign and the endowment had a quite a good year last year as well, absent of the Goldmark. The campaign raised $2 million from more than 6,000 donors and 100 law firms. And the endowment investment fund is up to $23 million, which meant they were able to disperse their highest amount ever to LFW for grants in 2021, $942,000. So that continues to grow. So positive news and momentum on the LFW development front, hopefully continuing later today after the Goldmark. And then on the EJC side, you know, I think I provided an update before that EJC is not particularly active this legislative session. It's not a budget year. Of course, we're monitoring a lot of things, including some of the budget developments that Antonio mentioned are, you know, coming to a head at the legislature around now. Most notably, a $2 million request for pre-eviction services that would go through OCLA and likely be dispersed to the volunteer lawyer programs to continue or expand some of the pre-eviction work outside of the right to counsel that they've been doing. And then obviously the big news about the Community Reinvestment Fund that could provide, you know, some money through OCLA for programs engaged in post-conviction and reentry work. So sort of monitoring that and doing some stuff in the background a little bit, and then mostly starting to engage the process. Is never too soon to start thinking about the next biennial budget. Talk to Jim at OCLA about what that process might look like. And I think the role that the EJC really wants to play is getting the input of our sort of various stakeholder communities, especially including those groups who already have or are starting to engage more seriously with community member advisory input, to make sure that the top priorities of impacted communities are reflected in what programs we'd like to see out of OCLA's biennial budget request. So to that end, have already started some preliminary conversations with some stakeholder programs and are interested in doing more. I reached out to Francis and Bonnie about this, but particularly interested in talking to the ATJ Board's community advisory panel on that effort. So hoping to work with that group and get to know those folks a little bit more over the next month or so as we start getting more seriously into the budget development process. It sounds like OCLA doesn't have to turn in its budget request for the biennial until September. But obviously the more work we can do in advance of that, the more prepared we'll be. So I think that's it for me, unless Kara, you want to chime in with anything?
Nope. The only thing I'm doing is trying to assist Will in kind of investigating how folks are doing community informed advocacy and trying to see what's out there and what's being done so we can try and help folks coordinate efforts in that regard for the next budget session. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Will.
Thanks. See you at the Goldmark.
Yes. And Cesar, is on to you now, Cesar. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Again, I'm not sure if Dean Clark is, she's still on the line, and really it's an amazing run as Dean, her second, and at the same time, it's just such a pleasure working with her at all times. Thank you so much. Wanted to very quickly say that as far as the Federal Legal Services Corporation funding status goes, as with everything else, federal budget, there is no federal budget for fiscal year 2022. Congress passed a continuing resolution through December 3rd when they didn't pass their budget by September 30th. And on December 3rd, they passed the continuing resolution, continuing it through February 18th of 2022. This week, the House passed a proposed budget, there is apparently a lot of active negotiations going on. The next step appears to be that there's going to be another continuing resolution until mid-March. And hopefully by then, the Legal Services Corporation, along with all of the various agencies and departments, will know what their budget is going to be for this fiscal year. As it stands, there is a proposal by the two chambers. We're developing their proposals throughout the year. And when it comes to Legal Services Corporation funding, there is a proposed increase that the House adopted following on the President Biden's, the administration's proposal to increase LSC funding by 135 million over last year's levels. The Senate's proposal would increase funding by 50 million for over last year's level. So the increase will be somewhere in between, and we'll just wait and see. There is hopefully they can get it together by March. I mean, I think when they get this far out, it really starts to really impact agencies in terms of what they can do and so on. And sometimes the bad side is that they would decide to just completely kick the can down the road and pass no budget, in which case basically it would be flat funding for the federal budget. But it doesn't seem that the issues around the budget are at that level. So we're very optimistic we'll have a budget by mid-March. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar. Any question or comment for Cesar? All right, thank you, everyone. Any other updates or announcements? SP, go ahead.
I just want to let everybody know that on March 1st, we're going to be putting out the application for the Access to Justice Board. We're recruiting 3 new members, so please, keep your eye out for it. Dean Clark, please share with all of your folks, and thank you so much for everything you've done. And this is just one more thing we would ask if you could get the word out on this. We really want to try to have community voices on our board, more community voices on our board. So we need your help to do that.
Thank you, SP. Any other announcements? All right. Disco Delivery System Committee meeting is on the 4th Monday of every month, 12 to 1:30 p.m. Next meeting is on February 28th. The Tech Committee will meet on the 3rd Tuesday of every month. Next meeting is February 15th. The Rules Committee meets 3rd Tuesday every other month at 12 p.m. Next meeting is March 15th. Please, anyone can attend any of these committee meetings, regardless of whether you're a member or not. We are going to go now to the most important event of the year, the Goodmark Luncheon, and I want to invite all of you to go. If you are ATJ board members, this is one of the requirements for you to attend and to contribute. According to our operational rules, you are to contribute to the campaign for equal justice once a year. This is a good opportunity for you to put your money where your mouth is. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you all at the Goodmark Luncheon in 34 minutes time. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Thank you, Francis. Thanks, everyone.